I was 23 when my hair started falling out in the shower. It clung to my fingers in thick, wet clumps, and I stared at the drain like it could somehow answer the question my body had been whispering for months. It took 6 visits, 3 specialists, and 1 emergency room collapse before I got a diagnosis. Stage 2, Hodgkin's lymphoma. Treatable, they said. Survivable, but not cheap. Insurance only covered so much. The co-pays alone were already sinking me. By the end of that week, my mother suggested a GoFundMe. "Don't be embarrassed, sweetie," she said, patting my hand as she scrolled through her phone. "People want to help. Look, this girl raised $80,000 for a therapy iguana. You're literally fighting cancer." I didn't have the strength to argue, so we set it up. Photos of me from before the diagnosis, a few from the hospital bed, and a heartfelt paragraph I barely remembered writing through morphine fog. My mom and older sister, Danielle, took over the campaign. Shared it everywhere. Sent it to their church group, their PTA friends, Danielle's Instagram followers. It spread like wildfire. In 3 weeks, we hit $61,482. People were generous, kind. I cried the night we crossed $50,000. I felt safe for the first time since the word oncologist entered my world, but the money never hit my account. At first, I thought there was some banking delay. My mother reassured me with vague phrases like, "It's being handled," and "We're just keeping it organized for you." Danielle was more blunt. "You're in no condition to manage finances," she said, folding baby laundry on the living room couch. "Mom's taking care of everything. Just focus on healing, okay?" I didn't argue. I was too tired. By the time my second round of chemo started, I noticed little things. New curtains in the guest room, a glider chair delivered, then the crib arrived. At first, I thought it was a gift, but when I asked about it, Danielle smiled wide and rubbed her belly. "I ordered it custom. Walnut wood. It's for the nursery." "Nursery?" "Oh," she laughed. "Mom didn't tell you? We're converting your old room." My stomach dropped. "My old room?" "Well, I mean, you sleep downstairs now in the den. It just makes more sense. Less stairs, easier for you. The den. A drafty converted office space with no door and a twin-sized futon. That was my space now. I hadn't complained. But hearing her call my bedroom her baby's nursery made my throat close up. "You used the fundraiser money," I said flatly. Danielle blinked. "Well, not all of it. I don't remember standing up. I just remember the heat in my chest. It was for my treatment. It is for your treatment. But we're managing the budget responsibly. Mom said it was fine to use some for household improvements. You live here too." She said it so calmly, like logic, like my cancer was a family renovation opportunity. I walked out, straight down the hall, past the yellow walls they'd painted last week, still smelling of lemon and primer. Inside, my bookshelf was gone, my childhood desk replaced by a changing table. My name, once hand-painted above the window in cursive letters, was scrubbed away. The crib sat in the center of the room. Walnut wood. Danielle's baby would sleep there. I wasn't sure where I was supposed to go. The next morning, I asked Mom, directly. "Where's the money?" She paused at the sink, her back to me, fingers trembling just slightly over a dish. "What do you mean?" "The fundraiser. For my treatment." "Where's the rest of it?" She turned, drying her hands. Honey, you know it's all accounted for. We've used a portion to make sure the house runs smoothly. Danielle's baby needs a safe space, too. You'll still have everything you need. But it was for me. Mom's expression twisted, a mix of pity and irritation. Don't be selfish, Rachel. You're not the only one going through something. Danielle's pregnant. She's stressed. We're all juggling a lot right now. I stared at her. You're calling me selfish? You're crying over a room. Rachel, a room. No. I was crying over the fact that my survival was treated like a temporary inconvenience, that my body, fighting to live, wasn't enough to keep the people I loved from stealing from me. I went downstairs. I didn't cry again that day. There's something that happens when people think you're weak. They forget you're watching. After that conversation in the kitchen, something in me clicked off. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry in front of them again. I played along, ate dinner at the table, laughed politely when Danielle showed me ultrasound pictures. Let Mom scold me for not being more present during family time. But I took notes, literally. On my phone, in a hidden folder labeled meal logs, dates, times, purchases, every item that arrived for the nursery, every invoice, every Amazon delivery Danielle proudly unboxed. I screenshotted the GoFundMe dashboard the last time I had access. The list of donors, the exact dollar amounts, the withdrawal history before I was locked out. I didn't know what I was building, but I was building something. 2 weeks later, I was in the hospital again. It was supposed to be an overnight chemo cycle, but my platelet count dropped. They kept me for 3. I expected my mom to come. She didn't. Danielle said she was tied up with the baby shower committee. The nurse handed me a folder of medical billing records, routine stuff mostly. And I noticed something odd. Several invoices were marked unpaid. Delinquent. I blinked. These are supposed to be covered. We raised money. The nurse gave me that gentle look they must be trained for. We've contacted the family on file several times. My throat tightened. Can I see the full billing summary? She nodded. Of course. That's when I found it. Months of medical charges still unpaid. From appointments I barely remembered. Thousands and thousands of dollars in bills, sitting there. Ignored. I called my mom from the hospital bed. Mom, I said calmly. The hospital says nothing's been paid. She paused. What do you mean? They sent me a full breakdown. There's $19,000 in unpaid balances. I thought insurance was covering that. It wasn't supposed to. That's what the GoFundMe was for. There was a silence. Then her voice, tight and defensive. Rachel, this isn't the time to stress about paperwork. It's exactly the time. I told you. We've been budgeting. Danielle's nursery. I don't want to hear about her nursery ever again. That was the first time. I heard her voice shift. Cold. Sharp. You're acting like we haven't supported you through all this. You're alive, aren't you? That line echoed in my head for hours. When I was discharged, the house felt different. Quieter. Colder. Danielle barely looked up from the couch when I walked in. There's leftover casserole in the fridge, she said. Oh, and try not to stress Mom out this week. She's had a lot on her plate. I went downstairs. That night, I stayed up scrolling through the fundraiser comments. The names. The kind messages from people I'd never met. Stay strong, Rachel. We're rooting for you. Every little bit helps. Sending prayers. From Ohio. One caught my eye. Happy to help. Hope this helps cover that second round of chemo you mentioned. Second round. That donation was from a friend of Danielle's, someone who had messaged her directly to ask how I was doing. I opened their profile. It was public. They'd posted photos a few weeks ago. Danielle and Mom, at the baby shower, in front of a massive balloon arch, surrounded by gifts and cake and decorations. The caption, "Celebrating baby girl and the strength of this beautiful family." Hashtag, blessed by generosity. I stared at the picture until my hands went numb. That was the night I printed everything. The GoFundMe page, the fundraiser comments, the withdrawal history, the hospital bills, screenshots of texts, Venmo logs, every Amazon baby registry update Danielle bragged about. I made a binder, indexed and labeled. I didn't know what I'd do with it yet, but I knew one thing. If they were going to spend money meant for my survival on matching curtains and pastel paint, then they were going to regret ever thinking I wouldn't notice. If there was one person my mother hated more than drama, it was her younger sister, Jess. Jess was the kind of relative you only saw on Facebook, usually in a mountain town or some jungle retreat, always with a caption like, "Found peace where the Wi-Fi died." She didn't come to Thanksgiving. She didn't babysit. She didn't bake. She especially didn't follow Mom's rules. The last time I saw her in person was 3 years ago, at Grandpa's funeral. She wore leather boots and a red coat and kissed my forehead like she saw me. So when I got out of my lift and saw her tiny cottage tucked into the woods, I almost turned around. But she'd answered my late-night message instantly, and her address was already in my phone. Jess opened the door barefoot, a mug of tea in her hand. Her hair was streaked with silver now, and her eyes sharpened the moment she saw me. "Rachel?" I nodded. She pulled me into a hug before I could fall apart. We sat on her back porch, the wind nudging the wind chimes like cautious questions. I told her everything. The fundraiser, the bills, the nursery. I pulled out the binder I'd created, marked with tabs, dividers, even color-coded highlights. Jess flipped through it slowly, her face unreadable. When she spoke, it was calm. "They took donation money meant for your medical care and spent it on a crib. And a mural," I added. "Custom painted, with clouds and butterflies." Jess set the binder down. "Did you report it?" "To who?" I laughed bitterly. "The cops? They'll say it's a family misunderstanding. Besides, everything was in Mom's name." Her eyes narrowed. "Wait, everything?" I nodded. "She set it up. The GoFundMe was linked to her account." Jess stood up without a word. She went inside. When she came back, she had a laptop in one hand and a worn legal envelope in the other. "Let me tell you a story," she said, sitting down again. "About when I was 19 and our dad, your grandfather, left me a small trust fund." I blinked. "What?" "I was the youngest. Didn't follow the path. Got into art school. Didn't marry right away. Mom hated that. So when Dad died, she convinced me she was managing the money for me. Said I was too emotional to handle it. Know what she did? I didn't. Breathe. She used it to redo the kitchen. Said she needed to invest in the house because I still lived there. My chest burned. "I didn't fight her," Jess said. "I left. But I always swore, if she ever pulled that on anyone else, I wouldn't stay silent again." I looked at her. "So what do I do?" Jess opened her laptop. "We build a timeline, and then we build a case." Over the next few days, Jess and I worked in silence and fire. She had contacts, journalists she knew from art circles, nonprofit workers, even a retired attorney who once worked with medical fraud cases. We compiled a full digital archive of the campaign, matched dates with Amazon orders, matched names with messages, even flagged donations from people Danielle had blocked me from ever responding to. Jess explained things in calm, methodical terms. It's not just about justice, it's about exposure. They stole money under false pretenses. That's fraud. And if we time this right, it won't just make noise. It'll burn. Every time I doubted, she reminded me, they wanted you invisible, so be unforgettable instead. One night, as we sorted through screenshots, she paused. You know, she said, you could sue. I blinked. Sue? Who? My mom? My sister? Jess met my gaze. You wouldn't be suing your family, Rachel. You'd be suing the people who committed financial exploitation against a disabled adult. You were in active treatment. Legally, they had a duty of care. For the first time, I didn't say no. On the last day before I left Jess's house, she handed me a flash drive. Back up, she said. Just in case. And the binder? Keep it. But that's not your weapon. I frowned. What is? Jess smiled slowly. Your voice. When I returned home, the house looked the same. Same yellow-painted nursery walls. Same passive-aggressive silence at the dinner table. Same faint smell of lavender and judgment in the air. But something had shifted in me. I was no longer hoping to be heard. I was preparing to be seen. Danielle barely acknowledged me. She was 8 months pregnant now, and everything had become about protecting her peace. Mom welcomed me with forced smiles and overcooked pasta, acting like nothing had happened. Not the hospital bills, not the fundraiser, not the conversations we both knew we'd had. You seem better, she said, as she ladled sauce onto my plate. I am, I said. Thank you. It was the first honest thing I'd said to her in weeks. That weekend, while Mom and Danielle were at a prenatal yoga class, I locked myself in the den and clicked into the Zoom call. Her name was Marcia Glenn, investigative journalist, specializing in nonprofit fraud, online scams, and medical crowdfunding abuse. Her articles had taken down 2 fake cancer fundraisers and helped recover funds for a misappropriated child therapy campaign. Jess had given me her contact with a single sentence. If anyone will listen, it's her. She appeared on screen, red-framed glasses, serious eyes, and a kindness I didn't expect. Hi, Rachel, she said. I read through everything. First off, I'm so sorry. What happened to you is wrong. I nodded, swallowing hard. I want people to know, not just about me, but about what families do when no one's watching. She leaned in. Then let's make sure they hear it. The interview took 2 hours. I told her everything, from the moment my hair started falling out to the day I saw the mural in what used to be my bedroom. She listened, asked careful questions, verified documents, took notes as I walked her through timelines, screenshots, and matching receipts. She didn't pity me. She believed me. That phrase your mother used, she asked softly near the end. Do you remember her exact words? I nodded. You're alive, aren't you? She wrote it down. Later that week, she followed up. Her email subject line was, Story confirmed, going live Friday. Inside was the article draft. She fought for her life. her family, fundraised for it. Then they spent it on a nursery. One young woman's battle with cancer, and the betrayal that came not from strangers, but from the people she trusted most. The piece was heartbreaking and clinical, personal and sharp. Names were redacted for legal safety, for now. But the details were all there. The fundraiser screenshots, the unpaid hospital bills, the fact that over $60,000 had been raised and over $40,000 was unaccounted for. She ended it with a quote from me. "I didn't survive cancer just to be erased by the people who raised me." The story went live on Friday. By Sunday morning, it had over 86,000 views. By Monday, the comments section was on fire. "This makes me sick. Who does that to their own kid? That mom and sister should be arrested." Donated $100 to her. Original campaign. Never again. Rachel, if you're reading this, stay strong. You matter. And somewhere in the middle of that viral momentum, I got a text. Not from Mom, not from Danielle, but from GoFundMe's Fraud Prevention Department. "Hi, Rachel. We are currently reviewing an investigation into a campaign created in your name. We would like to schedule a verification call to confirm details." That night, I sat at the dinner table, silent as ever. Danielle ate quietly, sipping her prenatal smoothie. Mom stirred her food like it was soup instead of pasta. Finally, Mom looked at me. "You've been awfully quiet lately." I looked up at her, smiled faintly. "You'll want to stay off the internet this week." The GoFundMe investigation moved faster than I expected. Within 3 days of the article's release, the fundraiser was frozen. By the end of the week, I was on a video call with their legal compliance team. A woman named Julia, calm and efficient, asked me to confirm dates, access logs, and which family members had permission to the account. I told her everything. I gave them the binder, the flash drive, the paper trail Jess and I had built with surgical precision. "This is textbook misappropriation," Julia said. "I'm sorry you've had to go through this. We'll be reaching out to the other involved parties shortly." "Will I get the money back?" Her face softened. "Some of it, maybe. But the bigger issue here is public trust and potential prosecution. You're not alone in this anymore, Rachel. I didn't tell Mom. I didn't tell Danielle. I didn't have to. The fallout found them before I could." On Monday, I overheard Mom on the phone. "No, I didn't approve anything like that. No, I don't know where that number came from. Yes, I am her legal guardian, temporarily. Well, she's recovering, and we've been managing it together." She slammed the phone down and muttered to herself for 5 minutes straight. Danielle looked up from her tablet and asked if it was about those comments again. By Wednesday, she had received 6 refund requests from former donors. And then came the letter. The envelope arrived in a plain manila sleeve, addressed to Rachel Mendez. Not resident, not family. Me inside was a printed formal letter on attorney letterhead. It was a notice of pending civil action, accompanied by a cease and desist filed against my mother and Danielle on behalf of 3 donors, including one who had contributed $5,000 toward my treatment. The letter accused them of misrepresentation, fraud, and intentional diversion of medical crowdfunding for non-medical personal use. It didn't matter that my name wasn't on the GoFundMe account. It mattered that I was the face. I laid the letter down at dinner that night, right between the salad bowl and Danielle's prenatal vitamins. "What's this?" Mom asked. I didn't answer. I just watched as she read it, her eyes scanning faster and faster until her hands began to tremble. Danielle grabbed it next. Her mouth fell open. "This is a joke, right?" she said. "They're suing us?" "No," I said calmly. "They're suing you. I'm just a witness." "But this could ruin our baby shower," Danielle gasped. "What about the gift registry? What about everything we've planned?" Mom turned to me, fury rising in her face. "You did this." I tilted my head. "You raised over 60 grand using my cancer, then spent it on clouds and butterflies. You did this." Danielle stood up, red-faced and panicked. "We didn't steal. We just used it in a way that helped everyone." "Except me," I said. The next morning, I checked the article again. It had been picked up by 3 news aggregators, then shared by a cancer survivors group with nearly 500,000 followers. New comments were flooding in. "I donated to this. I want my money back." The audacity. The mom and sister should be arrested. "Rachel, you're not alone. We believe you." And then came something I didn't expect. A private message. From a lawyer. One who specializes in elder and dependent adult abuse, and had successfully prosecuted family misappropriation cases. "If you'd like to talk, I can represent you pro bono. You have a strong case, and it deserves to be heard." That night, Mom knocked on my door. For the first time in months, she looked small. No makeup, no condescension. Just a pale, tired woman with hands she didn't know what to do with. "Rachel," she said softly, "can we talk?" I said nothing. She took a breath. "I know things got messy, but we're family. We've all made sacrifices." "You mean I sacrificed my treatment so Danielle could get throw pillows?" Her face flinched like I'd slapped her. "I didn't know it would go this far," she whispered. "You have to believe me. I just wanted to do what was best. For you," I finished. "You mean for you?" She stared at me for a long time. "You've changed," she finally said. I smiled. "No, you just didn't expect me to survive long enough to fight back." The lawsuit was filed 2 weeks later. It was quiet at first, just a stack of papers delivered by a courier, while Danielle was napping and Mom was rearranging baby gifts. I watched from the hallway as they accepted the envelope, eyes scanning. The name of the law firm printed in clean black letters, Marston and Keene. I didn't have to see their faces to know the panic had finally sunk in. My lawyer, Ella Keene, was precise, sharp, the kind of woman who wore fitted suits even over Zoom and never needed to raise her voice. "This case is stronger than you think," she told me during our 3rd meeting. "We're pursuing not just restitution of funds, but damages for emotional neglect and dependent exploitation. You were in active chemotherapy. That gives you standing. And we have the public record, thanks to the article." I nodded. "They're not going to see this coming." Ella's mouth curled slightly. "Good." Danielle went into early labor, the same week the court date was set. She was hospitalized for monitoring, leaving Mom in a tailspin of flustered text messages and chaotic grocery runs. The house was filled with half-unpacked baby boxes and silence so thick it made the walls feel tighter. One afternoon, I walked past the nursery. The door was cracked open. The crib was still there, walnut wood and overpriced, but something had changed. There was no warmth, no music playing, no smell of powder or promise, just a cold, over-decorated room built on stolen hope. I closed the door. Later that night, I overheard Mom on the phone again. I don't know how we're supposed to pay a lawyer on top of everything else. Danielle's barely sleeping. Her blood pressure's a mess. We're not criminals. We're just a family that made a few mistakes. A pause. No, I don't think she'll back down. She's different now. I smiled to myself. She was right. Ella emailed me the updated filing the next morning. Attached was a breakdown of all charges. Restitution of misused funds, $41,200. Punitive damages for willful exploitation of a dependent adult, civil damages for medical neglect, and fraud request for permanent financial guardianship to Sao be revoked. But the line that hit hardest was the final item. Request for legal enforcement, that all further donations and representations made in Rachel Mendez's name be prohibited without her express written consent. No more hiding behind. We're just trying to help. No more theft disguised as care. A week later, a formal court summons arrived. Mom signed for it. Danielle watched from the hallway with puffy eyes and an infant now cradled in her arms. She didn't say anything, but her mother did. You really want to tear this family apart? I looked at her, steady. You already did. I'm just making sure the pieces don't cut anyone else. That night, I received a text I hadn't expected, from an old classmate, someone I barely knew, but who had shared the fundraiser months ago. Hey, I just saw the article and everything you're doing. My cousin went through something similar. If you ever want to speak at our patient advocacy event, you'd be amazing, seriously inspiring. I stared at it for a long time. It was the first time anyone had called me inspiring. Not tragic, not pitiful, not inconvenient. Inspiring. The courthouse was beige, unimpressive. It didn't look like the kind of place where justice would live. But I walked through its doors with my head up, binder in hand, and Ella at my side. My mother and Danielle arrived 10 minutes late. Danielle was pale, worn out, and still moving stiffly from the delivery 2 weeks ago. She didn't look at me. Mom, on the other hand, met my eyes with an expression I'd never seen before, like a stranger caught between anger and fear. Good. The hearing wasn't criminal, yet. It was a civil motion to secure financial redress and prove exploitation. A judge, no jury, just a small courtroom with creaky chairs and an unforgiving clock on the wall. Ella spoke first. Calm, direct, unflinching. Your Honor, this case concerns the willful misappropriation of $61,982 raised publicly under the pretense of funding cancer treatment for Rachel Mendez, my client, who was undergoing active chemotherapy. The defendants, her immediate family, knowingly diverted over $40,000 of those funds for unrelated personal use, including nursery furniture, home renovations, and event expenses. She laid down the printouts, the receipts, the testimony. I watched, the judge's expression tighten with every page. When it was my turn, I stood. The courtroom felt colder somehow, or maybe that was just my nerves. But once I started speaking, something inside me clicked into place. I was 23. I had cancer. I couldn't breathe without help. Couldn't walk upstairs. I put my trust, my survival, into the hands of people I loved. And they used that trust to decorate a room. I looked directly at the judge. They didn't just take money. They took my dignity. They took my voice. And they called me selfish when I cried. The room fell into a silence that felt heavier than any verdict. My mother's defense was weak. She, stammered about family hardship and shared household responsibilities, claimed she'd been under immense stress and thought the spending was mutually beneficial. At one point, she even tried to cry, but it rang hollow, especially when Ella presented the messages, screenshots of Danielle joking about GoFundMe guilt money and planning the baby shower using the treatment budget. Even the judge raised an eyebrow. "You're telling this court you thought spending fundraiser money on a custom mural for an unborn child was in the best interest of your daughter fighting cancer?" Silence. Then, "It seemed fair at the time. By the end of the session, the judge didn't look unsure anymore. I will take this matter under advisement," he said, closing the folder in front of him. "But I want to be clear. This court finds the pattern of behavior exhibited by the defendants deeply troubling, especially given the vulnerability of the plaintiff during the time of financial exploitation." He paused. "A written decision will be issued in 10 business days." Outside, the air felt like it had been waiting for me. Ella patted my arm. "You did everything right." I nodded, still shaking a little. I didn't think I'd ever get to say it out loud. "You didn't just say it," she smiled. "You made it real. On record." That night, I got home to find the nursery door shut. No more sunshine leaking through the crack. No pastel butterflies dancing in smug stillness. Just silence. I stood there a while, staring. Then I turned and walked toward my room downstairs, not the den. My actual room. The one they took from me. Because starting tomorrow, I'm taking it back. The court ruling came by mail. Thin paper, heavy words. It was morning when I opened it. A breeze pushed through the cracked window, brushing across my skin, like the hush before something breaks. I sat on the floor, cross-legged, and read each line 3 times. The court ruled in my favor. Full restitution. Revocation of financial guardianship, monetary penalties, and a formal declaration of dependent adult exploitation. The judge's written summary was firm. This court finds the plaintiff's vulnerability was knowingly exploited under the guise of familial caretaking. Such conduct constitutes abuse. I walked into the kitchen with the letter still in hand. Mom sat at the table, her coffee untouched. She looked older now. Her eyes didn't hold fire anymore, just rusted guilt and exhaustion. Placed the ruling in front of her. "I know," she said quietly. "I read it. I didn't say anything." She looked up at me like she wanted me to offer some lifeline. A rope back to a version of me she could still control. But that girl had burned quietly long ago. When the crib arrived, when the door was painted yellow, when they told me I was selfish for crying, all I gave her was silence. Danielle was gone. Not just from the house, but from the state. Her boyfriend found out everything. He saw the article, read the court filing, and when she tried to spin it, he told her one thing. "If you can steal from your sister while she's dying, what won't you do?" He took the baby and left. Jess told me she's now staying with an old friend near Phoenix, trying to start over. But I didn't care where she started, because I already knew where I ended, with her. I stood in front of the nursery door one last time. Then I opened it. The crib was still there, untouched. The mural Danielle had proudly commissioned, all clouds and pastel animals, stared back at me like a lie frozen in place. I stepped in, quietly, slowly, and I began removing everything. The stuffed animals, the overpriced rocking chair, the baby monitor mounted above the changing table. I peeled down the wall decals with careful fingers, scraping away every last trace of her entitlement from what used to be my space. I painted over the yellow. I used a deep navy blue. It felt like breathing again. Jess came by the next weekend. She helped me move my books back in, hung new curtains, even brought me a framed photo of us, me in a hospital gown, bald, laughing. "That's the girl who survived," she said, placing it on my new shelf. "Not the one they pitied." I nodded, tears in my throat. "I finally feel like I live here," I whispered. Jess tilted her head. "You always did. They just pretended not to see it." I didn't go online for a while after the ruling, but when I finally did, I found thousands of messages, comments, shares, reposts, other patients, other survivors, people who had lost money to fake campaigns, people who had been gaslit by family, people who, like me, thought silence was survival. But I had spoken, and my voice echoed. One night, I opened a new fundraiser page, not for money, just a page of names, those who wanted to share their stories. A list of people wronged, overlooked, dismissed, and one message written across the top in bold letters. Your name belongs to you. Your pain is not a tool for their comfort, and you are not selfish for surviving.